You're listening to a podcast from LeagueCulture.com.
Hello and welcome to episode 39 of League Culture. Lots of interviews this month. We start the show with Lucka of the XIII, and then we turn our attention to the Netherlands and we talk to Kane Krlic, the head coach of the Dutch national side. And last but not least, we then go to Denmark to talk to Harry Rose, who is over there in Copenhagen. Since our last episode, I've been increasing the content of our YouTube channel, LeagueCulture RLTV, and you can listen to parts 1 and 2 of the story of International Rugby League, and also Before the Wolfpack. All this great historical content of our game has kindly been provided by Professor Tony Collins, whose work is excellent, and it's very generous of him to let us use his words. But as always, you can follow us on iTunes, and remember, go on and leave some feedback, increase the visibility of the show. Our aim is to increase the visibility of the wider game of rugby league, and by helping spread the show, you're helping spread the gospel and aid the work of others. We are also on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Lucka, TuneIn, and LeagueCulture.com. And if you have an Android device, you can download LeagueCast, a free rugby league podcast application, where you can follow lots of great shows: Super League Pod, Devil in the Detail, Ladies Who League. Oh, and there's a new one now. The Bare Necessities, which is the Coventry Rugby League podcast. And there's also some other good stuff on there, like the Rugby League on Radio Yorkshire podcast is on there. And a lot of the Australian stuff as well. And there's a one called there that's new, called Legal Counsel, that's recently got added. And there's also the League One show. And I'll give a quick mention to Ben Hughes of the League One show. I've had the pleasure of working with Ben at Manchester Rangers while he's been doing the radio coverage for the club on 106.6 North Manchester FM. So I've done a few minutes on that show talking about league culture, among other things. Mainly, I've been there videoing games, so I've been around, and he's had me on at the start of some of these broadcasts, and I've been doing the Alan Partridge thing, that is covering dead air at the start of his broadcasts. So listen to his League One show. He's a fantastic bloke to work with, very generous, very friendly, and I believe next time we're going out live on 106.FM. It's a Friday night, 11th of August, on about 7pm-ish, on 106.6 FM in Manchester, or tune in, you can catch it on that. Ben's really good at what he does, so if you're interested in amateur rugby league or rugby league in general, it's be sure to catch that. He does some great stuff, does Ben, and catch his League One show. And we'll give a quick mention to the Latin American Rugby League Championship. If you go on to chuffed.org, CHUFFED, there's a fundraiser on there at the moment to try and raise funds to help players get time off work and to get bus fares paid so they can take part in this 13-a-side Latin American Rugby League Championship in November, which should see Mexico, Chile, Brazil, Argentina all take part in this tournament, and a few other nations, I think, as well. And it's fantastic work being done by Latin Heat, who, if you go onto their Facebook page, I'm sure you'll find a link also from their Facebook page to the fundraising site. And I've also stuck a link on LeagueCulture.com if you want to follow it down. So I'd probably say don't go crazy on these things, but if you put £5, $5, whatever, it goes a long way for people who are struggling to pay for these things, and it does make a difference in progressing the sport. And I think this really contrasts the negative actions that have been taking place in World Rugby League of recent, with people following their own agendas and not really backing the efforts of others. So big thank you there to the likes of Robert Bergin and Latin Heat for adding a positive contribution to the sport. Right, before the interviews, I think we should catch up with what's going on in the world of rugby league. Well, let's start off in July on the 16th in Hungary, in Budapest, a place that I've been, and possibly even a ground that I've played on. We saw Hungary versus Poland, which saw the Hungarians win 56 points to 4. And we'll be asking Lucas about that in a few minutes. And on July 22nd, we saw USA 48, Jamaica 6. Very strong performance, that from the USA. And on the 22nd as well, we saw Hungary play the Czech Republic. And the Czech Republic won 26-6 in this game. So, good outing there from the Czech Republic, and Hungary not getting the second victory in this. And if we look at the international fixtures for next month, the main ones that I can see, on August the 26th, we've got Canada versus Jamaica in the America's Cup. And in the Griffin Cup, we've got Netherlands versus Germany. And we'll be speaking to Kane about that in our second interview. Well, over in North America, in the USA, we've had plenty of action in the USARL. And let's have a look at the last round. Well, we've seen Brooklyn Kings have a very strong year and win 53 points to 30 points at North Virginia Eagles. The Atlanta Rhinos, well, they stormed through. They won 58 points to 10 against the Central Florida Warriors. The Tampa Mayhem putting on an unexpectedly strong performance against Jacksonville Axemen, winning 42-24. The Rhode Island Rebellion, well, they'll be glad their season's over. They lost 12 points to 96 against Philadelphia Fight. The New York Knights had a very strong year. They've won 40 points to 36 in a close game against the Boston 13s. And the Delaware Black Foxes, well, they lost 18-38 against the also in form White Plains Wombats. And this takes us into playoff time. And we see on the 5th of August, in the North, New York Knights will be playing the Nova Eagles for the first Northern playoff final spot. And the second semi-final will be Brooklyn Kings versus the White Plains Wombats in a all New York state affair there. And that final between the winners of those two semi-finals will take place on the 12th of August. And also on the 12th of August we'll see Atlanta versus Tampa go head to head to work out who are champions of the South. And then it's North v South pairing off on August 26. We've also had in Jamaica their knockout tournament start with GC Foster College defeating Washington Bulls 24-22. The Jamaican Defence Force, well, they scored a victory, 36 points to 22 against Luana Dragons. And let's just catch up with the National Club Championship, which sees Dehaney Park on top at 18 points. GC Foster Lions on 12 points. The Jamaican Defence Force Warriors also on 12 points. The Washington Boulevard Bulls on 9 points. Luana Dragons on 6, along with Spanish Town Vikings also on 6. And the Vauxhall Vultures have had a disappointing season and they've got 0 points. While over in Ireland, we've seen Longhorns Rugby League become the new champions of Ireland, defeating the Galway Tribesmen 44-16. And if we go to Chile and we look what's happening there, we see, following a series of successful festivals and friendly matches over the last year, the Football 13 in Chile has taken the ambitious step of launching a national club championship following the growing interest in the sport in the Bio and other regions. The competition is set to feature 6 clubs, 2 of which will be from the city of Los Angeles, the Dragones and the Loncos, with the Mariman Club set to be the favourites going into this tournament after strong performances in recent tournaments. And they'll all be playing in the Superliga 13. The Superliga 13 competition will operate in addition to the festivals and intercity friendly matches that run alongside it, and will provide opportunity for newer clubs to take part, as well as teams playing in various tournaments from places such as Colombia and Peru, who may go on to develop their own competitions in future seasons. And if we look at the Asian Pacific region, we see Fiji, and in Fiji we see Ravo Ravo to face Sobeto in the Fiji Vodafone Cup Grand Final. In the Philippines, the Manila Storm, well, they won the Manila Nines. And in Hong Kong, Kowloon, well, they were the winners of the inaugural Hong Kong Super League. And if we turn our attention to Africa and to Burundi, we see 2 rugby league competitions taking place in Burundi, with the Muha Rugby League competition, which has the Tigers in first place on 10 points, the Buffaloes in second place on 4 points, Impala in third place on 5 points. Not sure how that works. I think there's some mistake there. And in fourth place we've got Punda on 0 points. In the Natawanga Rugby League, we see in first place the PFYISI Rugby League on 11 points. And in second place, we've got the Leopards on 6. In third, we've got the Simba Rugby League team on 0 points. It's a good name, isn't it? Simba Rugby League. I like that. And in fourth, we've got the Ingona Rugby League, and they're also on 0 points. And Burundi Rugby League it's gone from strength to strength. Despite a lack of equipment and resources, and largely being isolated from the rest of the rugby league community, they've pushed ahead, led by president and founder Jean de Christ Ruziga, who I've got an interview with from past episodes of League Culture, which we'll have to dig out and play again. Perhaps we'll stick that on the League Culture RLTV channel. That'd be a good one, that. I think we'll do that. Led by the president and the founder, Jean de Christ Ruziga, they've been developing the sport around the city of Bujumbura, having been supplied with rugby balls by the RLF and the RLF. They've been developing the game in the 2 districts of the city, which are the 2 leagues actually we just spoke about. Right, let's do Norway. We've not covered Norway for a while. So in the North League, we've got Trondheim on 2 points in first place. Second place, we've got the Buddha Barbarians, also on 2 points. In 3, we've got Oslo Capitals on 0 points. In the South League, we've got 4 teams in the South. Stavanger Storm on 4 points, first place. In second place, on 2 points, we've got the Flekkefjord Tigers. Third place, the Porsgrunn Pirates. And the Sadness Raiders on 0 points. On 0 points in fourth place. And we'll do our first interview now with Lukasz in Poland. I'm very privileged. I'm speaking to Lukasz Lucka from the Polska 13, or the Polish Rugby League. And you've had a historical event that's taken place. Your game between Hungary and yourselves.
Yes. It was our first ever official sanctioned international game. We played some friendlies before with the British students and British teachers, but it was like it was a big step forward to play against a full national team representing other country.
Now, I know it's disappointing that you lost the game, but the fact you were able to get to the point to hold a full international game must make you feel very proud compared to where you was 2 years ago.
Yes, absolutely. Being honest, the score wasn't the most important thing for us. We just wanted to catch some experience playing against another country, and the progress in the last 2 years is just big. It's enormous comparing to what we had in 2015, and even on not only on organizational level but also on a sport level, we were getting better, and for example, comparing to the game against Hungary, we were much better comparing our last game where we played against GB teachers in last October last year. So the progress is big, and we're just trying to do our job, taking small steps, and eventually win a game in a few years.
Well, I'm sure you will. I mean, the thing is, you've still not got your domestic competition fully started, and once you get that started, it's only going to get stronger and stronger.
Yes, that's right. For now, we are focused on nines because we have 6 clubs, but they don't have enough players to play a full season of 13-a-side game. So we can play a game or two 13-a-side, but nines is just the safest option. So we are about to start a competition at the end of the next month. It will be a series of nines tournaments with full 13-a-side final at the end of the season.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, it's good to see your teams in that competition, because at one time you were struggling for kit and stuff, and now we've got teams like the Wild Bears where they've got their own kit and they're bringing out new kits and they're getting sponsors, and that's exciting just in itself.
Yes, absolutely. Some of our teams, they are doing very, very well. They found good sponsors and some decent level of support from the local communities. It's not easy in all of the towns because, of course, the surroundings they are different, and the local government is different in various towns. But yeah, it's a big progress, and we are getting more serious like every year.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic. And congratulations on gaining observer status.
Oh, thank you. It was we could make it earlier, but we didn't really push to get the observer status just before we were really ready to gain it. We wanted everything to be established before we applied for the observer status, to be honest.
Well, I know it's pleased. I mean, Anthony Petrosky, who is one of the coaches at Manchester Rangers and one of the coaches at the junior sides, Bellevue Bees, has been over a few times to get involved with coaching, and I saw his comments today on Facebook, and he didn't get a chance to come over. I know he would have loved to play, but I think he felt it was important that your domestic players played first and foremost in that game. But I think he was just so proud to see the lads that he'd spent time training with take a full international game at rugby league.
Yes. I think that having people like Anthony is very important for our development. People who can come to Poland to coach our players a few times a year. Experienced people, just lads living in rugby league heartland, knowing the game. It's a great advantage, and with big Polish communities in England and in Australia, we can really use people like that, and I think it's really vital for our development.
Well, Polish players have obviously got the potential to be great rugby league players. We've got the young lad at Leeds at the moment.
Yes. It is. I think that it's a matter of time before his story will make it to the Polish nationwide media, because I've seen even on rugby union websites they were writing articles about Mikołaj from Leeds. So I think that there are more lads like him, more Polish lads like him living there in England, and we just need to think how we can encourage them to start playing rugby league.
Well, I think the great thing about his story is he's not even that he's a heritage player, because he was originally born in Poland, and
Yes.
he's moved over as a young child, I guess, or an older child, moved to Leeds. He's got involved with rugby league there, and now potentially he could become a big superstar in the sport.
Yes, that's it. So he's an example for other Polish boys living in England, people who moved to United Kingdom in the last 10 or 15 years. So it's completely different than people who have Polish grandfather or something like that. So these are people who maybe even if they live in England for a few years, they're not really familiar with rugby league and all the culture of this sport. So they need somebody like Mikołaj showing them their way to the sport.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, it's great, isn't it? I mean, I suppose the moment he lands in the Polish press, or the Polish UK press even, it's a great catalyst for increasing your sport, because potentially we could see a Polish team take place in an international tournament next year with the emerging nations.
Yes, it's not confirmed. Yeah, but it is an option for sure.
Yeah, don't want to put any pressure on you. I know you're working hard enough, but the point is, I'm trying to make that it's a big future out there for Polish rugby league, and you have done some fantastic work in the last few years to take it there, Lukasz.
Well, thank you.
So, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy your Nines season when it starts. Right, that was a great interview there from Lukasz, and now we'll move on to our interview with Kane in the Netherlands. This is Jim Morris. We've got Kane Krlic, who is the coach of the Netherlands, and you're about to go into a fixture against Germany in a few weeks' time to play for the Griffin Cup, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. We play Germany on the 26th of August, then we play Sweden 2 weeks later. So, we've just started all our preparation now for the internationals, and it's an exciting time for us.
What can we expect in this game? Which players shall we be looking out for?
Well, over the last 3 years, we've spent quite a lot of time trying to develop rugby league players. And now we've got two players who will be one will be making their international debut, and one will be playing his second game, who actually, the first time they touched the rugby league ball was at school. Then they played for the local team, rugby league team, then went to play for the Netherlands development team against the RAF, and now they'll be in the international setup for this year. So that's Ruben and Ari, who are, both 18-year-olds, and we're really looking forward to seeing them play, and they've come through the pathway as well. So, that's a positive for us.
Well, we'll look out for those two lads playing. And how do you feel you'll go against the German team? Because obviously, a bit of an unknown quantity, Germany. They've done very well in the past, but they don't really have a domestic league to gauge, really, to work out just how good these guys are going to be.
Yeah, that's it. It's always that's always one of the tasks when we play Germany. We never know what to expect. Obviously, last year we played them, they beat us by 2 points. So we feel like we've got a point to prove this year, and we're targeting both games as victories. But we know that we've put the right preparation in. We feel we've got 1 more year's more experience behind us. So we're targeting it. But it's always tough against them. They're always physical. I know a lot of their boys play rugby union as well, so they're probably a little bit more experienced than us. But that's part of the challenge. But it's exciting, and it's also exciting to see how use it as a measuring stick for us, and see how much our philosophy of developing rugby league players and using new players, how does that differ going against a lot of rugby union players?
Where is the game at, and what's the date of the game?
So it's the 26th of August, and I'm not quite sure on the city, if I'm being honest with you. I know it's on the Dutch-German border, though, so I know it's not too far to travel.
Oh, so it's a good location then for both teams.
Yeah, it's perfect. We have a good relationship with the Germans, and yeah, we try and accommodate them, and they try and accommodate us, and we're all about trying to use each other to both develop off each other, and I think that's how it should be in our nations.
Absolutely. We're forming clusters of tri-nations there. We've seen in the Central Eastern European area, we've seen the Czechs and the Poles and the Hungarians come together to play each other, and we see a similar thing with the Swedes, the Danes, and Norway. And we now seem to have that with yourselves, the Germans, and the Belgians.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm a great believer in for our game stronger together, and yeah, if we're helping each other out, we're only going to get better. And there's been a few German players who've come over and played in our domestic competition this year as well for Amsterdam Cobras. And yeah, we're in close communication with their coaching staff, and we're always asking how each other's getting on and like bits of advice from each other as well. And yeah, we're only going to grow the game in our areas if we work together. And yeah, and I think that's part of the working relationship with Germany, and I know we've got plans in the next few years to keep that growing and getting stronger and stronger as well.
Is it possible we could see a mixed league with you in Germany? I know it's been done in the past with Belgium, or does it really depend on where those new teams spring up in Germany?
I know there's aspirations for that. I wouldn't like to confirm it now, but I know there's been talk about it, and there's a bit of a development plan put in place by Germany and ourselves to hopefully get to that in a couple of years. Obviously, Germany's such a big country that they'd have to be somewhere close to the border for it to be feasible for our players as well. But yeah, we've definitely spoke about it, and we think it's a go-ahead. And I know this year they had a team that entered the Rotterdam Nines, and that kick-started a bit of interest in the German boys to play more rugby league in the Netherlands too.
Being an amateur game at this level, I mean, the level of planning that goes into things is always excellent. It's in some ways it's better than a professional game, but you are obviously confined by the resources and the people available. So there's always an element of luck with these things, I know.
Yeah, definitely. It's I can't fault the Netherlands Rugby League Bond at all, but like you said, they're all volunteers. But they all work their socks off, but it is with, and I think Germany's in the same position. There's very little money there for us to play around with, very little resources, and sometimes you can have the best plans laid ahead, but it can be a little thing what can throw stuff off, and we've just got to try and limit that as much as possible, but with the understanding that we are volunteers, and and that's going back to the working together and trying to help each other out. And I think especially over the last 3 years, I think that philosophy's grown amongst a lot of nations. I think you mentioned earlier about the Czechs and the Swedes and Norway, and like I said, there's loads of little clusters, and the more you're working together, that's going to limit these problems what can come ahead.
Well, we've seen it spring up in other places as well now. We've obviously seen it in Turkey and Bulgaria and the nations surrounding them. So it's hard work, but there seems to be fruits, if you like, springing up in different places.
Yeah, and probably the more good news stories we get, the more we can use that as our advantage, and we can say, look, this is what's happening in Serbia, this is what's happening in Turkey, this is what's happening, and we can then have them conversations with the local council, local government, and show them some good news stories, and that's going to definitely help as well. But that's also part of the challenge, and I think when you speak to most sports people, you get into it for the challenge, and yeah, you've got to embrace that and see it as a challenge, and if you can come out of it the other side, then that's when you'll get the credit you deserve.
Do you think there's been a shift in the Rugby League press towards the RLEF in recent years? I mean, I know now on things like Sky Television, we see things like the results of your league occasionally published on the TV, on the bottom bar and stuff. Are people accepting that there's a wider game, you think, now?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually back in England 2 weekends ago and went to the Wakefield game against St Helens, and it was amazing the amount of interest there is in not just Dutch rugby league, but just in European rugby league. Like I said, I think they've been seeing it on Sky, you now see it all over social media, and there's a genuine excitement there, and I think the more people read about it, the more people want to hear more or ask how they can get involved. When's your next international? Like, I know there's a few people talking about flying over to watch the game against Sweden, and like I say, I don't know what it is, but there's been I'd say over the last 12 months, there's definitely been a push with the media, and seeing it on Sky Sports, then we send it to our players to show them that, and then that gives them a buzz, and yeah, that helps massively.
Well, that's excellent. That's really good news. I mean, if you like the work that's behind this show, that shows at least there's some progress being made in that area.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys are the pioneers for it. League Culture, you've been doing the podcast now for 3 years, and yeah, there's more interest and there's more people listening to the podcast. And I say you guys are the pioneers, and hopefully it just keeps carrying on developing.
Well, it's very nice of you to say that. We're never sure. We hope sometimes we know we don't get a massive audience. I think sometimes we hope that maybe we'll put a story out, we'll write an article, and maybe a journalist will steal it and borrow it, and that's not a bad thing for us, really.
No, that sounds hopefully as well with the World Cup coming up, there'll be a bit more push for international rugby league as well.
Definitely. There's always a spike after the World Cup, and it will be exciting to see what follows. And well, I suppose, but we can't really let you go without mentioning your stepfather, John Kay, who's, well, we're expecting great things from him with the Welsh.
Yeah, it's exciting times for him. I know when I was back at the weekend, yeah, we had a bit of a chat about it, sharing a few ideas, and yeah, you couldn't shut him up about that first game when they go to Papua New Guinea and how exciting he is. He's always praising the Welsh Rugby League as well and what they're doing on a minimum budget, and yeah, it's an exciting time for them, and yeah, I know he's excited for it and he's confident, and yeah, it's good. It's good.
It must be good. It must give a big buzz between the two of you. Must be able to bounce ideas off each other at some level. Yeah,
it's nice. I don't know how many ideas he gets from me, but I certainly get a lot off him. So it's it's nice to go home, being able to talk about the rugby league, and yeah, for the first few hours that's all we talk about. Then you can get on to personal matters after. But yeah, the rugby league always comes first in our household.
Are we anywhere closer to seeing a Wales versus Netherlands fixture, or is that something we'll have to play on Rugby League 4 or something like that?
No, we've spoke about maybe a possible of a Welsh development team coming over, like from their domestic competition. I've also got a good relationship with Idris from the Welsh Rugby League there, and I know he's keen too. We've talked about crossover training sessions, but I think we'll see how the World Cup goes and take it from there. But yeah, there is something in the pipeline where a Welsh development team may come over and we'll have a return fixture over there too.
Oh, that's brilliant. That'd be really exciting. That'd be great to see that. Right. Well, thank you very much, and good luck in your game.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
Cheers. Thanks for that. Right, now for the final main interview with Harry Rose over there in Copenhagen.
Hi Stuart, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. Now, Scandinavian Rugby League or Nordic Rugby League has had various ups and downs with the different countries, and in the past Denmark's been a force in Nordic Rugby League, and perhaps in recent years it's took a bit of a backseat. So what we're really going to ask is, what is the current state of Rugby League in Denmark, and where can we expect it to go to?
I think what we're going through now is a rejuvenation phase, Stuart. Obviously, Steve stepped back at one point, and Steve has massively been the driving force for rugby league in Denmark. He's been the chairman of the board now for I don't know exactly how long, but since he's come back on board, it's really started to kick back to life. And what we're doing is we're really leveraging a lot of the union players because Denmark doesn't have quite such a large nascent rugby league scene as in the north of the UK or Australia. So we're having to leverage the interest which exists for the union game and play with a lot of those guys on a slightly more temporary basis. So instead of having regular weekly fixtures, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have great events with big games, maybe 4 to 5 times a year at the moment, to really kickstart the growth again.
And what would those events be? Would they be kind of state of origin type events, or would they be nines tournaments?
It's a bit of a mix. We're looking at nines tournaments. I think Steve's got a sort of a full teams in the works sort of thing. But for example, coming up in August, we've got the Australian Cultural Festival, which Copenhagen Rugby League is running for the Australian Embassy. So hopefully what we'll see is get a lot of the Aussies down there, and in the middle of the event have a cracking game of rugby league, which we hope will get the interest started.
Well, it sounds good. So,
Yeah.
what kind of activity is going on at the moment? You mentioned Copenhagen. Copenhagen obviously is the home of the Black Swans.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm on the board of the Black Swans, along with Steve as the treasurer. And I think that with Denmark being quite a sparsely populated country with only really one big city, don't tell the people from Aarhus I said that, but the population is really, really focused around Copenhagen, and we find that, with all the expats there, it just being a much higher percentage of expats living in Copenhagen than elsewhere, that's where sports which aren't sort of native sports to Denmark really, really are successful, like the Union, they even have Gaelic football teams out here.
So, in terms of the sort of the population size of Copenhagen, if we took the Union, are there various Union sides in Copenhagen?
Yeah, I think there are. I think there are about there's five or six Union sides in Copenhagen.
Right. So there's a possibility there for a few teams, perhaps, for rugby league in Copenhagen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think over time, then hopefully what we'll see is as the sport garners more interest, we'll see a couple of other clubs spring up. We don't want to be Copenhagen's only team. Far from it. We'd love to have competition in the local area.
And how did the name the Black Swans arise? How did this Black Swans club come to be?
I think my understanding of it is the chief sponsor of the Swans was the Black Swan pub in Copenhagen Central, Borgergeld. And with that sort of very prominent signage on the shirts, I think it was just a natural step,
Well, it won't be the first team. There's many famous teams that have come from such naming conventions. I mean, back in the UK, we have the London Scholars, which, if people are not aware, comes from, I believe, a one-time connection with Skull Lager, or a one-time possible connection with Skull Lager, and I guess these names, they just stick with time.
Yeah, I think it's just people become comfortable with the association, and I think it's a great name. It certainly helps us with recognition, as opposed to being called, something with. I think that's one of the beautiful things about rugby league is how well you can brand your team.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I mean, I suppose you could have been the Sharks or the Bulls or the Raiders, but the Black Swans, there can't be many Black Swans out there in any rugby, really.
No, it's not necessarily the first image that you would put to a rugby league team is a Black Swan.
It's a good one, though. I like it. I do. There's a certain catchiness about it. So, what brought you into rugby league, Harry? Are you originally from Copenhagen, or have you moved there?
I've moved there. So I'm from. I was born in Birmingham, and I went to uni up in Durham. And my way into the sport was through union, massively. I started playing when I was about 7 years old. Went up, sort of graduated up through the ranks, sort of thing, and went on to refereeing. And then when I was over here, I met with Steve Davey, and he said, "Why don't you come out and see what's going on in Copenhagen Rugby League?" And I jumped at the chance, sort of thing, because I always liked the sport. I always liked watching it. I think it's a cracking sport to watch. And things went from there for me, really. I had, obviously, latent interest from watching it. And I jumped on board at the first possible opportunity. I thought it was a great idea.
I always find Denmark absolutely fascinating when it comes to rugby league, because it's one of those areas that's got such a unique character about it. I mean, even the people involved, I mean, yourself and if just to explain Stephen Davey himself is quite quite a character. When I spoke to Stephen, I've always come away with a smile after speaking to him. He's a very colourful character, shall we say?
Yeah. I think that's what it needs, especially when it's a development sport as it currently is. You really need those charismatic individuals behind it who can really, give life to the sport, give a bit of human interest to the sport as well. Which I think Steve's great for that. I hope I'm not necessarily as colourful, but also fairly. Even with the lads on the team, there's some cracking personalities. You know yourself, Eugene, probably, I imagine, and Andre, big Romanian chap. And it's people like this, they really bring human interest to it as well as the sporting interest.
Yeah, Eugene Hanrahan, he was originally from Ireland, wasn't he? And he moved to Denmark.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely, exactly.
I don't know Eugene personally, but Declan, who started off doing the show with us, I'm sure he's played alongside Eugene.
Yeah, probably. Eugene's been around a bit. He's well known in international rugby circles, I think. Probably for all the wrong reasons.
Well, we had an interview with one of your players a few years back when you won the Nordic Cup, and he certainly had an impression. He certainly fired your players up anyway, and he was certainly a popular character in the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he's a great motivator, to be honest. It's like Nige as well, our first team coach. I think when you've got people like that who really know how to, on match day and socially to bring the team together, then you end up with a far more coherent unit. And especially, as I say, when it's a development sport, you really want to make sure that you can keep the players interested over a long period of time.
Well, I know with my chats with Stephen, and obviously you've had these chats yourself, and how he likes to make events of things. He's very keen on creating an event. So it's not just all about the sport. He likes people to come along, and he likes people to be involved, and he likes to make an event of things. He's very much focused on the off-field side of things as well.
Yeah, I think our strategy over the next few years is definitely to, as I said, not to play at first the regular games with smaller crowds. We want to make it so that we're playing games at events which already have crowds. We really want to make sure that we've got it'd be great to have a good few thousand people down, not necessarily initially for the rugby, but to get them watching the rugby whilst they're down there, take notice and say, you know what, that's a cracking sport, that I'd like to get involved.
Well, it's worked before. It's certainly. I mean, it's worked with in early days. You've got the Toronto Wolfpack now. When the Canadian internationals were played during I think it was the Caribbean Festival that they had in Toronto, they linked the two events together. So you've instantly got a crowd there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that's what we're trying to do with the Australian Cultural Festival in August.
It's a fantastic idea, and I've heard some really different ideas from Stephen over the years. I know in the past you've had rap artists down and models and roller derby and all sorts over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can rely on Steve Davey to come up with some interesting events.
Which I think is good, because there's certainly, I guess, like you say, when you are a development sport, I suppose a lot of it is just generating that fun, generating that initial attention to kick things off.
Absolutely. I think keeping it family friendly is absolutely key. I've always seen league as a very family friendly sport. I think you've got maybe a little bit of soccer fan syndrome here in Denmark, and if we can keep it as a family sport and make sure that people are down there not just for the sport, which leads to the sort of unpleasantness, but coming down to have a day out, then spirits stay high. You advertise the sport to families more. I know at the moment in the union side of the game, there's been some controversy with some of the teams, and I think that if you have people down there for a different reason, when the sport is in development, then you avoid that soccer mentality. You avoid that nastiness that sometimes comes in countries where the sport is still developing, and they don't have the same exposure to the traditional values of the sport.
Right, and obviously that's important, because as I get to say, I spoke to past players and stuff, and Denmark is a country where family and having the correct set of values is very important there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it makes it all the more shocking when you go down on match day to, again, for example, to the Union games, and you've got, not quite hooligans, but the next step down at the game, causing strife, picking on the referee. I mean, that's unacceptable, and it's just absolutely what we want to avoid. I think if we can, build the reputation of the sport as being one which is family friendly, as I say, I think that's the key.
Yeah, I mean, Blythe, that is also a difficulty as well, isn't it, when you try and organise a domestic league? Because I believe in Denmark, weekends are often put aside for family time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we obviously don't have match days on Sundays here, which for me was a very big difference. I'm used to Sunday's match day. Here it's all on Saturdays.
I guess this is important, really, and I guess this is important with people like yourself, that you understand the local culture if you're going to have any kind of long-term future.
Absolutely, but I think that with international sports coming into Denmark, I think that the Danes that play, they also want a bit of exposure to the international culture of that sport. So the lads that come down and play league with us, there's a lot of foreigners, that's true, and a lot of them are from Commonwealth countries in the UK and Ireland. But we get Danes that play with us, and more often than not, they absolutely love getting involved in the international side of things, whilst we can obviously learn from them as to how sports teams in Denmark should act. So I think there's there's lessons to be learned from both sides. And I think that's really, really beautiful, sport bringing people together to share experiences and to help, each side to grow, sort of thing.
What is it that brings the Danish lads into the game? Do they come in by chance? Are they union lads who fancy playing league, or what is the sort of the event that brings these Danish players along to your games?
I think it's a bit of a mix. I mean, there's one club here which is very much involved. A lot of their lads play for the Black Swans. And, if it's in one club, then the other lads of that club will be like, oh, right, if you're going down there, I'll go down there with you and see what's going on. So I think that's definitely one part of it, friends bringing people in. And yeah, there are lads that know expats that want to spend some time with them, who will come down. But then there's also, it also works in the other way. So because this one team is very involved in Black Swans, just because a couple of the lads there have always played for them, and they've got their friends along, some of the guys from other teams won't touch it. So, which to me makes no sense, because it's not about, it's about the sport. If you want to play, you want to play it. But it does work the other way. So you end up with, because of these rivalries that exist in the other game, you end up with lads not coming down, which is a shame, really.
With the sort of the exposure of rugby league in Denmark, are people aware of rugby league in Denmark? Perhaps more the NRL rather than the Super League, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. It is a development sport here. People are far more aware of the other game than rugby league. I think you see a lot more people, when you talk about rugby, people assume either sevens or union, really. And that's because the DRU is quite strong here. Denmark is obviously trying to set its focus towards the Olympics and the Olympic style of sevens rugby that they play. They see that as their best chance. So that's what's got the most recognition at the moment. Certainly in the expat community, there's interest and recognition of rugby league. But I guess that's what we're trying to do, is by drawing large Danish crowds as well as, expat crowds, we're trying to build the reputation of rugby league in Denmark, and then hopefully we'll get more and more Danes interested. And if you start asking about it at your local, can you put the game on TV, then that's a virtuous circle.
That's an interesting idea. So you have the event, and the events themselves become educational, and from that sort of lack of exposure, you find another way of spreading the game. That's a very interesting approach.
Yeah, but it's dead interesting trying to build something in sport in another country. It's a fantastic challenge. It really is, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully this event of the Australian Cultural Festival will be absolutely fantastic.
Have we got a date for that?
I believe it's the 26th.
The 26th, and what can we expect on that 26th?
Well, I think what we're really looking at doing is having some music down there, some food, a few drinks. Obviously, it's Australian culture, but no, it's Steve's trying to bring down some musicians, play the rugby game in the middle of the event, try and draw a big crowd, something along the lines of we had a Japanese cultural festival down here, just showcasing Japanese culture, and I think that if we if we can match that and have some traditional items of Australian culture, get the people down there, have the game in the middle of the day as one of the large events, then that'll be absolutely perfect.
So it sounds brilliant. It sounds brilliant. And in terms of international games, have you got any sort of expectation to rejoin the Nordic Cup, or is that yet to be seen?
I think we need to develop our base first. We want to come from a very strong position. You know, we were at the Nines tournament in Skana, and we had a cracking showing out there, an absolutely cracking showing. You know, it's our first game in more than a year. No training from any of the lads. We went out there and we really showed our stuff. We are back. We're absolutely back. But I think that we want to make sure that if we go back into the Nordic, that we can really challenge for it. We don't want to come in and finish mid-table.
Well, it's an interesting tournament because depending on who's in the various countries at the time, there are various strengths, aren't we? Because you've had times where Sweden's been dominant, you've times when yourselves have been dominant, and of recent we've seen sort of Norway dominant really. So it tends to change from country to country really, who has the strength. And I guess you don't want to go in and just be smashed, but we certainly want to see you back in that competition.
Yeah, we certainly want to be back there, but I think, as I say, there's an element of we want to make sure that we have a base that we can reliably operate from, because we love that the power moves around. I think it's great that the power doesn't consolidate in one particular country. It means that the sport can develop throughout Scandinavia at an even rate. But we want to make sure that when we come back to it, we can continue to build from that platform of success. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we build from where we are now, we get a following, we get more people down, get more players in the team, look at options as to including more and more people into the team, look at the women's game if possible, and then go from there. We want to make sure that it's a permanent establishment, a stable club, and that as unfortunately does happen sometimes, the club doesn't fold because X person or Y person isn't able to continue anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's the challenge, isn't it? Really, I don't know how you get around that. I mean, I don't know if the tricks to build into an existing sports club, or do you start to build junior structures and stuff underneath your senior stuff? How do you go about that kind of thing?
Well, I think, Stuart, that's absolutely where the importance of emphasising that this is a family sport comes in. There's a lot of fear in countries where union and league aren't native about them. They're seen as dangerous sports. They're seen as sports where it's not safe to let your kid play. But if we can turn it into a family event where families are down and they see actually these lads, they're good role models. It's safe, safe as it can be. It's sensible stuff. Then you get parents saying, actually, we can go down there. I play in the senior team, and the little one can train with the juniors. And then when you've got that youth set up, when you've got that occurring, that's when you've got long-term growth. Obviously, for the foreseeable future, the major inflows won't be from a youth system. The major inflows in terms of players will be from expats and Danes who want to come down and play some rugby league. But what we're hoping is, long-term future, we can get players up through a youth system, make it viable, and keep it long-term. And also, avoiding the folding of the club. If there is interest, and there's a vehicle which can be used by people to play the sport, to enjoy the sport, then it doesn't matter who leaves. If there's someone there who wants to continue, then they can just use the vehicle which exists, right?
Definitely. So just a question on the other side of it. Do you have any plans to sort of retain players as well? I mean, something I found with my own local club that I'm involved in. I mean, obviously we have lads who get to the age where they can't play anymore, but they're a fantastic asset off the field sometimes, these people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what you see with people like Nige, who obviously used to play with us. Now he's the head of our first team. He's the coach of our first team. I mean, I myself, I can't currently play. I'm injured thanks to shoulder, ACL, AC, whichever. Tore that in 2 places, and that was extremely unpleasant. So I'm out of it as well. But I think that this is a great example of how you can continue. And it doesn't have to be in a formal capacity even. I think that having those senior players who are, very much in the social life of the club, that makes it more than just a sports club. That makes it a team, actually. When you've got those experienced players who've come up with the club, who know the people in it, know the culture of it, then they can really help to reinforce that on match days and after the match. I think that's really important for building a cohesive team.
Well, that's fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, Stuart.
Right, Harry, thank you very much for your time, and good luck in the future. So, thank you for listening to the show. Please try to share the show if you can, or rate us on iTunes. Remember, like it, link it, post it, share it. Get the news out there that there is a international aspect to Rugby League. And to sing the show out, we've got Danny McMasters and the Be My Singers with I Love My Game, which is available to buy on iTunes.
I love the game, it's in my heart and it's a part of me.